In previous tutorials, we saw how we can use the graphical user interface on GameMaker to create simple game. The graphical user interface, or as we call it, the visual programming method in GameMaker, simplifies the process so we don't need to do a lot of hardcore traditional coding. There are many features on the graphical user interface. Some of them we have already seen, and some of them we will review again today. For example, as you noticed, the behavior can be defined using events and actions. The actions provide a wide range of different parameters that can be changed visually through the graphical user interface. For example, the action can be applied to the object for which the event is being defined, the other object, or any other object in your program. Also, the movement, for example, can be absolute values, for example, in this case, jumping to the point x and y 2000, or they can be relative. That means we can state the object that the location is and add these values to it. This is a very useful thing, especially when we are doing different types of movements. So for example, if you look at when you're pressing the arrow keys, our default movement says go to the left with the speed of 2. If you select relative option, that means continue whatever movement that you had, but add a speed of 2 in the left direction. This way you can have your object move in multiple different directions at the same time by adding values to it. There are so many other features available on the graphical user interface that you can explore through different tabs. In particular, some of them especially designed for features that are frequently used in games. For example, score, lives, and health. In particular, score is a useful feature because it allows you to keep track of player achievements. In order to use the score, we add a new event of type create, and for the action, we initialize the score to 0. Now once we reach an item and hit an item, we add another set score to 1. Notice that by doing this, the score will be 1 every time that we pick up an item, which is not correct. What we really want is to increment the score. That we can done using the relative option. That means the 1 will be added to the existing score. Once this is achieved, next step is to check if the score has reached a certain point, which is using the test score action. Let's say, for example, once the score is 3, we want to win the game. If a score is equal to 3, now it's a condition. The next action that we put here will be executed only if this condition is true. And for that, we can use the message which is available on main tab. The message simply is a text, which can be, for example, you win. Now if you run the game, we can go and pick up 3, and you will see that we have won the game. As you can see, there are so many different options that are available for the actions that we can take that allow more complications into program. You can also use lives, health, and a wealth of other activities. What we can also do is add new variables. So right now the program allows you to have score, lives, and health. But if there are some other type of information that you want your program to have customized to your game, you can add a new variable. Example of it, for example, is if you are playing an animation and you have multiple frames and you want to see at which frame you are, that can be a variable in your program. Or if you are creating a game in which one of the characters is supposed to guard 3 different positions, the position that you're standing in front of right now will be a variable. Or if you have different targets, the target that you're currently moving towards can be a variable. And many other options that you have here for adding different features to program. Even though you have all of these features, at some point in time, there are complicated activities that are not possible or difficult to achieve through these features, and that's when actual hardcore traditional programming will be useful. GameMaker provides the ability to do programming and add detailed features of the game using the notion of scripts. I have a sample script there that I restart from the beginning to create. If you go to the script, create script, it gives you this interface when you can write code. A typical program is made of variables or information, as you saw before, and code or instructions that we give to CPU to perform actions. In more traditional programming, code is modularized into functions. In GameMaker scripting language, GML, and also other programming languages, usually these functions are shown using brackets. So let's say we want to create a rather more complicated actions for our boss character. So instead of having paths or timelines, intelligently follow our player and attack the player. In order to do this, we need to know where the object is, where the target is, and have an algorithm for following it. Once you create a script, the scripts are usually attached to object, and each object has X and Y. So X and Y are two variables that's already defined inside this function based on the object for which this script is defined. Any other object also has its own X and Y. To create new data in the script, we use the keyword var. So let's say first thing that we want to do is to see what is the distance between the boss and the player. We create a variable called dx, and we say var dx equals x, which is the x coordinates of the object for which we are defining this script, minus player.x. Every instruction in GML ends with a semicolon. We do the same thing for y direction, y minus player.y. Player.x means x that belongs to the player. Now the next step, we want to move the boss towards the player at a certain speed. So we can say x equal x minus dx divided by 50. What does this mean? Is that we are reducing the distance between player and enemy at this rate. The higher this number, slower the object will move, the boss. Y equal y minus dy divided by 50. So we move in both directions. We save. The next step, we need to make sure that the boss will follow this script. Once you have the properties for the boss, what we need to do is to make sure that the script is attached to the boss character. In order to do that, and since this script has to be executed every time that the boss is drawn on screen, so we're constantly following it, we add a new event, draw. We don't want to take care of the drawing completely by ourselves. We can also use pre-draw. So you have the option of either using the draw when you have to draw the object, or pre-draw. That means before the system draws the boss. We select pre-draw, and then we go to the controls, execute the script that we created. So that means before the boss is drawn, this script is executed, which changes the X and Y location of the boss. And then the boss will be drawn at that particular coordinates. You will see that now the boss is following the player. This is a simple example of how to create a script in GameMaker, attach it to a character, and create more complicated movements based on the scripting. The advantage of using scripting is that you can create programs that are a lot more complicated. The disadvantage is that now you need to be familiar with more traditional programming rather than easy to use graphical user interface. The choice is obviously up to the designer and the game maker, but familiarity with the scripting and programming in general gives you more options. Feel free to go around and experience with the scripting and look online for examples of scripting in GameMaker. Thank you, and good luck making games.